Hey everybody, welcome to Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Dave Riedel. I write sometimes about movies for some places, and I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
My name is Evan Crean. I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living.
And my name is Megan Kearns. I'm a contributor to Edge Media Network, and I too am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
Yeah, you are.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, you are.
Okay, so as per every week, we have movies to talk about. But before we do that, I wanted to encourage y'all who are patrons to go over to our Patreon page. That's patreon.com/spoilerpiece and listen to this week's exclusive audio, which is about the movie Slumber Party Massacre, based on the fact that you all voted for us to watch that and talk about it, and we had a great time talking about it. And for $5 a month, you get extra audio every week that no one else gets. So please consider doing that if you can. And also, thank you, patrons, for doing that. 4 movies. Got 4 movies. We have Ludi or Ludi. I don't know, how you want to pronounce that. Operation Varsity Blues, the college admissions scandal. Slaxx with 2 X's. And The Courier. We'll explain what all of those are as we get to them. But The Courier, that's the new Benedict Cumberbatch. Cumberbatch? You know who he looks like, by the way, when I was watching the movie? And we'll get to this in a minute, patrons. When his head gets shaved, he looks like Nicholas Hoult. Isn't that weird? Anyway, let's talk about Ludi. Shall we, Megan?
Yes, we shall.
I'm on my 3rd Diet Coke, and I had a cup of tea. So I got a lot of caffeine going on in me today.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
That's why you're this way.
Yeah, dude. Ludi is a short-ish, at about 80 minutes, drama directed by Edson Jean and written by Jean and Joshua Jean-Baptiste. And it's about a woman named Ludi, or Ludi. I don't know. Depending on where you're from, you pronounce her name differently. And, she's a Haitian American, and her, when she talks to her family, it's Ludi. But anyway, she's a nurse. She's living and working in Miami. She's trying to earn enough money so she can send some home to her family. And this is basically one day in her life trying to, pull all the loose threads of her existence together. Do I have that kind of right, Megan?
Yeah, for the most part.
For the most part. I mean, I'm leaving some stuff out, plot-wise, because we'll get to that. But first question, Megan, what did you think? Did you have a good time? Were you thrilled, chilled, whatever? I mean, thrilled is the wrong word, but...
Yeah. So I just the one thing I did want to mention is that this is playing at South by Southwest right now as part of their film festival. So I was excited to see this.
Yeah.
And yeah, I liked this. I think the woman who plays Ludi she does a fantastic job.
She's very
found
good.
her... Yeah, she's really engaging. She's really interesting to watch and see how she navigates her day-to-day life and with her family, and leaving cassette messages because her cousin won't get a phone or won't get the phone card so they can talk long distance. So they mail each other cassette tapes so they can listen to each other, which is very sweet. And yeah, I liked this a lot. I think, and I'm sure we'll get more into it, but I really liked how this absolutely shows the American dream is a fucking sham and what a crock of shit it is. Yeah. And I loved her interactions between cantankerous George, the older gentleman, and that she's caretaking. And yeah, I really love how determined she is to work and bust her ass so she can send money home to her cousins, and she can give money so one of her cousins or her cousin, I'm not sure exactly if it was her cousin or her cousin's daughter, but so they they were graduating from high school, and so they would get a dress, a really nice one. And yeah, I really liked this. I like that we get to see Little Haiti, which is a neighborhood in Miami. And yeah, I liked this a lot. Dave, what did you think?
I think I didn't like it as much as you did. I didn't dislike it. I liked Shimon Premier's performance. That's Ludi. There were a couple things I didn't like about it. I did like the message that the American dream is a crock because, hey, who are we kidding? but I actually thought that it was unfortunately predictable in the sense that
I agree with that.
Yeah, in the sense that she picks up an extra shift. She's a nurse, and part of her nursing contract dictates that she can't pick up nursing work outside of her hospital network, or not hospital the network of the home where she works. Whatever. I think she works in it's not a palliative care facility, right? It's just like a kind of a nursing home, right? I don't know. She's not allowed to pick up shifts outside of it. Outside of the network is the point, and she does pick one up. And she ends up going to the wrong place. So, which
you don't find out until the end.
Which you don't find out until the end, even though you know that she's at the wrong place.
Right?
Like from the beginning, she's at the wrong place.
Yeah.
But the patient is supposed to have mild dementia, and this guy kind of has, characteristics of that. Whether he has actual dementia or not, who knows? But the other thing that I had a problem with, I thought the guy who played George, his name is Alan Miles Heyman, I really thought his performance was weak. I didn't believe him. I just didn't buy his, didn't buy his portrayal. So that was, and considering he's in it like half the movie, that was really hard for me to get past. So, which is a bummer.
That's fair.
Because Ludi herself is very good. Everybody she worked with at the other care facility was good. Her fucking passive aggressive, borderline aggressive asshole landlord was good.
See, I actually disagree. I think all the supporting performances were not good.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought they were very, like, I could see the acting behind the performances.
The acting.
Like, I'm acting. Yeah. So for me, the supporting performances weren't good. I did think George was good, but really Ludi shines. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that's good because it's her film. Like, it's about her. So
it is called
I would hope
Ludi, yes.
Yeah. So I would hope that that she's the best. But yeah.
But against her better judgment, Evan, she picks up this extra shift, and then she goes to the wrong apartment because her landlord
is an asshole.
Her landlord's an asshole, but she gives her the address of the apartment. Her landlord speaks English and Spanish, and she speaks Spanish when she gives her the address. And Ludi speaks Spanish, but not well enough to catch the whole thing. So she just gets the apartment number wrong. She goes to 206 instead of 207, or 207 instead of 206. And so,
oh my God.
Exactly. Which is the kind of thing you could actually see happening in real life. But I feel like in the movies, it's a little easy. So, that's kind of a bummer, but she ends up, taking care of George, the cantankerous guy who lives there. And the reason you think you're led to think, the screenplay wants you to think he might be the right guy because, like I said before, he does have symptoms or he shows signs of dementia, and he says his kids are out to get him. His kids are real. He does call them and he gets their voicemail, because Ludi's like, well, why don't we call your kids and just see what they say? He's like, because they're always sending people over here to check up on. He keeps saying things like that. So he's obviously had some home care before. And he also is in need of care. He falls out of his bed in the middle of the night. He has an accident, So it's not like this guy doesn't need someone looking after him. It just happens to be the wrong place.
Right. So because she's at the wrong place, does that mean she doesn't get paid?
Correct.
Yes.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she also gets in trouble because this whole thing was supposed to be like on the down low, and she was supposed to be relieved at midnight. So she's only supposed to be there for like several hours. But the replacement never comes. And then so her landlady who gave her the other pickup shift is like yelling at her that she's in trouble. And like, so it's like a whole thing. So.
Yeah. So it ends up being bad news. I can't really recall what happens at the very end, though. I mean, it's just kind of, isn't she just like on the bus going back to work? I don't remember.
She's on the bus. Yeah. And she's still holding on to the package that her passive aggressive landlady gave her, that she didn't want to mail in the first place because it wouldn't fit in the post office, the box outside, and she'd have to go in, and she's still like clutching that and just looks exhausted. I have to say that the scene that really sold me on this whole film is when, not because of this, but what happens after, when George falls out of bed and knocks over his bedpan and there's like shit everywhere, literal shit. And Ludi just like loses it. Like she just breaks down and cries and is talking about how this country, you'll always owe something and you never, like nothing is ever, you never own anything. It's never yours. And you're constantly having to pay back this country. And it's just, it felt like such a great speech. And I'm going to, like I say speech, but like it feels like it's such a great speech about the problems with the American dream and the absolute disgusting problems with capitalism here. But yet it's done in such an effective way for her character that it just feels so organic. And it feels that, she's been busting her ass. She's been taking extra shifts. She works like 80 hours a week. Her boss is telling her, you can't pick up another shift. You need to take some time off. And she's like, no, I'm fine. Until she's not fine. And she just reaches her breaking point. And it's such a great fusion of social commentary and character development. And I was crying. I just thought it was incredibly well done and really effective.
Agree to disagree. Although
you can be wrong.
Although her speech, I mean, her performance was good when she loses it. And also that's when George is kind of like, ooh, sorry, I've been hard on you. Yeah. But anyway, unless you have anything else to say, that's Ludi. Do you have anything else to say, Megan?
I do. One thing that I do find interesting, because I feel like it goes along with the themes of the film. I like that he's not constantly, but he often tries to give her money. Yeah. I also like, here, take a check. I also think it's interesting that they talk about religion a little bit, like her having I'm going to assume a Catholic background, and because she says Jesus or some kind of Christianity, and then he's like, because he's Jewish, and so he does not want to hear Jesus when she's praying, because she's praying for him. So anyway, I thought those were some just interesting touches.
Yeah. I noticed that in the religion part too. I kept waiting for him to be like, come on, no Jesus, and then he did. So, but anyway, that's Ludi. That is, you said it's South by Southwest, right?
It's at South by Southwest right now. Yes.
Okay. Moving on. Operation Varsity Blues, the college admissions scandal. That came out Wednesday on Netflix. And this is it's not weird. It's a hybrid documentary / dramatic recreation of dramatic real events about if you recall, the college admissions scandal that Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin both did a little bit of time for.
Yeah. It's a lot of people did a little time, it seems, based on the documentary.
A lot.
Not enough, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of those things where I kind of feel like, can we have the rich people, because they get away with everything. They still kind of got away with everything in this. It's like,
yeah.
They barely got any time, and some of them still haven't been sentenced even.
Yeah, like, why doesn't Felicity Huffman, this is all kinds of fraud, like wire fraud, tax fraud, like all this shit. Why aren't you inside for all day? Anyway.
No, she got 11 days, a whole 11 days.
Yeah. You know who got the worst of it was the sailing coach. He had
2
years, 2 years of home confinement. 2 years.
Right.
And a $10,000 fine, which is like a lot of money for someone like that.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely. And
he got the shaft.
And he was the only one who didn't take any money for himself,
Right.
He gave the money to the school program that he coached. I mean, that's kind of a perfect example of like the Justice Department at work. It's like the rich people get away with everything, and regular fucking Joe Schmo, it's like, you got to stay in your house with an ankle bracelet for 2 years, schmuck. Fuck you.
Right. And then lose your job and get, a blow to your reputation and all this other bad stuff. And
the university doesn't back him, even though it's implicated in the movie that they were in on it too, at least quietly.
They pocketed the money.
And then they pocketed all the money that he gave them through this. Yeah.
Anyway, I enjoyed this documentary. I liked the hybrid kind of narrative-ish format mixed with interviews. I'm always happy to see Matthew Modine. And I enjoyed him as Rick Singer, the guy who's at the center of this scandal. And I just thought for me, watching it, it broke things up in a way. Like, so I didn't have to just watch a talking head documentary. I liked that those reenactments were there. For listeners, they do reenactments of conversations that were wiretapped. So you see Matthew Modine having conversations with this guy, Rick Singer, who was the mastermind of this scheme. You see him having those conversations with these people, and you have actors that are playing them. And I don't know, I enjoyed that aspect of the documentary. I also feel like it does a good job of delving into exactly how this scheme all works, or worked rather.
Yeah.
And how people were basically giving him money that he was putting through a fake foundation that he was then giving to schools and school officials to accept students under like the guise of being student athletes, people who were not athletes at all. Like, I thought it was effective that they showed the photoshopping of the kid playing water polo to make it look like he was an athlete, even though he was not a water polo athlete.
Yeah. I appreciated the way the documentary broke down how the scandal actually, how the scam actually worked, because I was never clear on that. I just knew the famous people who got arrested. Megan, were you going to say something?
I was, but I can wait.
No, please do.
Okay.
I'm happy to let you guys take this one.
Wow, I fucking hated this.
Ooh.
Hated it. I despise reenactments, and I thought these were particularly annoying. And I think the documentary relied way too heavily on them. And I will say, on the positive, I think the score by Atticus Ross is really good. I liked the score.
Yep.
But for me, the only part, because everything in the documentary is information that's in the news. Nothing is really revelatory or interesting for me. The only part I found interesting is when they broached the topic of prestige and how it's an illusion, and that college admittance is obviously based on wealth, and how you can get approximately the same college education anywhere. And I really appreciate that, because as someone who I went to community college, public university, Ivy League, I've gone to everywhere, and you do basically get the same education, sad to say. What you don't get the same of is networking opportunities and access. And that's a really big thing that it doesn't even touch on that. But my problem with this documentary is that I was like, oh, okay, we're getting into this. This is interesting. We're going to extrapolate this. We're going to get into some interesting power dynamics. And then it immediately pulls away, and it doesn't ever really delve into that. It just mentions it. It just touches on it ever so lightly. And I think it's a huge, huge misstep.
Fair.
But Evan, I'm glad you liked it. And Dave, if you liked it, I'm glad you did too.
I'm kind of middle of the road, partly because, unlike Evan, I'm not always happy to see Matthew Modine.
Same.
If I wanted to watch, let's see, acting that had the same efficacy as a piece of oak, then I would just go look at a piece of oak. But yeah, I find, except for, I think it's impossible to be bad in a Stanley Kubrick movie, simply because you have to do the takes so many times. But outside of Full Metal Jacket, I'm not much into Matthew Modine. I just wanted to mention, though, that this is directed by Chris Smith, who directed one of my favorite documentaries ever, American Movie. If you guys have seen that.
I have not.
No, but I know that these two guys also worked on Tiger King and the Fire Festival documentary.
Yes, that's right. Well, American Movie, I think you both might love, because it's about this guy from Milwaukee who's trying to make a movie.
Oh God!
Yeah, his name's Randall Borchert. And his best friend Mike Smith, who's doing the score. And if there was ever a walking PSA for not to do drugs, it's this guy who's composes the score in American Movie. But it's one of the funniest, without taking pot shots at these guys, it's just a great movie. And so I will always appreciate Chris Smith for that. But yeah, I came down in between you two. I certainly didn't loathe it the way you did, Megan, but I didn't love it the way you did either, Evan. I eventually got on board with the reenactments, but at first I found them really jarring, just because I was expecting this to be a straight documentary. And then I was like, whoa, reenactments, Matthew Modine, so. And he's also got that Matthew Modine voice. So that wooden Matthew Modine voice. And then, but like you, Megan, I appreciated everybody talking about the why college experiences work differently for different people and the money and that stuff.
Yeah, I liked the section talking about the SAT and the SAT, like standardized testing being a very biased system and how it works as part of like this. I'm going to call it the college industrial complex to keep minority students like at a disadvantage. I thought that part was effective, and I liked when toward the end there was a person, I think, who either as a college counselor or they said is like an administrator, and he was talking about how like, yeah, that's great that this, they took this Rick Singer guy down and this network of people, but ultimately like the underlying problems will remain the same, and unless we do something like really drastic to reform the college admissions process, we're just going to keep seeing the same thing over and over again, where the more money you give to schools, the better the better access you get to them, and it's going to be a self-fulfilling thing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and it's not revelatory information that standardized testing is racist and classist and ableist and sexist and a whole host of other things. I mean, numerous scholars and activists have pointed this out for years. So I'm glad that it broaches that topic. I agree with you, Evan. I just wish it had delved in deeper. And I think that's the problem, is that it just doesn't. It touches on it. And then it's like, oh, we're going to touch on it, but then we're going to back away. And I think that's my big problem. Like thinking about like the guys who made, and I have not seen American Movie, but thinking about making Tiger King and Fire Festival, that doc, I think they know how to make a decent documentary when it's a salacious topic, and when it's not, when it's something about power dynamics and corruption and power inequities and institutions. For me, I think that they don't really know what to do with it. They don't know how to handle more grounded material. But again, that may just be me.
Yeah, maybe it is just you, or maybe it's Maybelline.
But I don't care. I don't care.
Well, anybody have any final thoughts on Operation I'm going to say the whole title. Operation Varsity Blues, the college admissions scandal?
I mean, I just enjoyed seeing seeing them tease out the story, because I did not do a lot of reading about it. I knew the broad strokes. So it was, for me, interesting to see like how this all kind of happened and how it worked.
Rock. And
I would have loved to have seen this story done by, I think, other people.
Yeah. Could be.
And I hated it.
All right. So that's 1 like, 1 middle of the road, 1 hate. Okay. Moving on. And that's, you can watch that on Netflix right now. So moving on to Slaxx. That's SLAXX. About a kill of pair jeans. A pair of killer jeans.
Yes.
In a shop somewhere in Canada. I'm guessing the Toronto area, even though lots of the actors are French Canadian, but they don't have French Canadian accents. Another story.
It was filmed in Montreal.
Was it filmed in Montreal? There you go.
I'm pretty sure it was filmed. It was filmed in 3 different places, and I think one of them was Montreal.
Yeah, and the main performer, whose name escapes me right now, she has a French name, but she's an English Canadian. So there is more mixing than they tell you there is. Quebecois. Okay.
Romain Denis.
That's right. So somebody take this one, because all I'm going to say is it's about some jeans that kill people. So somebody else.
I mean, that is the log line.
I think that's true.
And it's like, it's a night. It takes place over the course of a night. It's one of those trendy clothing stores. It's called Canadian Cotton Clothiers. I think do we know what it's supposed to be parodying? Is it supposed to be like making fun of like American Apparel or places like that? I don't do enough like clothes shopping to know it's making fun of something in particular.
I couldn't tell you. I thought it was just sort of making fun of the entire, not making fun, but taking the piss out of the entire, sustainably, whatevered manufacturing thing.
I think but I do think it is specifically poking fun at, parodying all of that to sustainable fashion, but specifically sustainable fast fashion, which is a complete oxymoron. Except from what I've heard, H&M has pretty good practices, even though they're fast fashion. So anyway, I don't know if that's true, but I knew someone who used to do this kind of, they did their thesis on this, and they said that H&M was one of the better ones. But anyway, I digress.
No, that's helpful information though. So.
Oh, good. Thanks.
Yeah, so this takes place at a clothing store over the course of one night, and it's a store that everyone thinks has very sustainable ethical practices, and we find out that the reason these jeans are killing everyone is because some pretty unsavory things going on. Mainly, it's these, they call them super shapers, and they have this SS mark on the back, which gonna say it was pretty disturbing how much it looks like a Nazi symbol.
I don't think that was coincidental.
It's striking. So there's supposed to be jeans that are form-fitting jeans in the most extreme way. They're adaptable. They're supposed to be adaptable cotton. We find out that these jeans are killing people because the cotton was picked by this Indian girl, and she fell into the cotton gin, and her blood got mixed in with all the cotton, and so now the pants are out for revenge.
Yeah, all the pants, I guess, that were made from her blood-soaked cotton are out for revenge, which in the end looks like about a dozen pair of jeans. So,
yes,
out of the 150 that shipped.
Right. And the story centers on Libby, who's a new employee, and she's just starting, and there's this, night where they're swapping all the inventory over, and they have a famous vlogger that's coming in, and she's going to do a whole segment about these special new jeans, and then one of the employees steals a pair out of the stock room, and then the jeans kill her, and then they just go on a crazy murder spree.
That's basically it. I mean, I had some serious not serious. I had problems with this movie, but
do tell.
Well, I mean, I know it's supposed to be a horror comedy, but considering the thing that they're commenting on is really fucking serious, I thought that the humor, and also considering the violence, is so violent. And and that's the thing about it. Some of it's very cartoony, and then some of it's pretty gross, like legit gross. So I just thought, I know you're trying to be funny, and you're also trying to be gross, and you're also trying to make a point, heavy-handed that it is, especially when the jeans pull themselves onto a mannequin, so they kind of take human form, and it turns out one of the employees speaks Hindi, so she asks the spirit, whatever, she asks the jeans, "Who are you?" And the jeans, like a good Scooby-Doo mystery, explain everything that happened.
Writing in Hindi and blood on the wall.
Yeah.
Yes, with a mannequin hand. See, I enjoyed that.
I did too.
That was a human hand. She was holding the human hand in her mannequin hand. Just set the record straight. I did appreciate that. I thought that was effectively creepy, but I don't know. It just... That being said, having worked in retail, I've known all of these people who work in the store, or the 80% version of these people, because these people are all cranked up to like 11. The evil store manager, and the woman who doesn't give a shit, and the eager new employee, and then everyone else who's just kind of a dick because they've been working there so long and they hate it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I worked retail for a really long time, and these are all massive caricatures.
I know, but I mean, you've always got, like, I just feel like I saw a lot of people that I used to work with in each of these characters.
Oh God, yikes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for you.
Well, that's why I said 80%, so.
Fair enough, fair.
It just didn't, somebody else go. It just didn't work for me on the whole, and I think I was pretty clear why. So. Okay,
well, I'll go. I liked it. I thought this was ridiculous and silly and irreverent and fun. And I know what you're saying, Dave, that it's dealing with a really serious topic, and it's dealing with heavy-handed issues. And is it almost too light of a touch? And sure, I think that's a fair critique. I think that's a fair criticism of it and complaint. I didn't have that complaint though. The one thing I will say is that I do the one kind of like thing is that it's a white woman director and a Latina woman co-writer, and the white woman director also co-wrote it. And I think that, and I'm like, that's interesting that you're having so much Hindi in there, but they did have a Hindi consultant. So I like that they're, being inclusive and sensitive. And I do like that, they're commenting on the clothing industry, which is notoriously, not only capitalistic, but also perpetrators of colonialism, and are just gross and have child labor, slave labor, environmental degradation, human rights atrocities, like kind of everything. And it is so often, Black and brown, people who are subjected to these. And so having a ghost or spirit who is an Indian girl is kind of perfect and perfectly fitting for the message that the filmmakers, for the film they're telling. So I really liked this. I mean, that's pretty much the big reason I love horror so often is I love all the social commentary that horror so often makes. And I really love the commentary that it was making here about, how ethical source things might not be, fair trade, sweatshop free might not be. And and kind of the co-opting of people who really co-opting of ethical movements and how people legitimately want to be informed consumers and want to buy compassionate merchandise. And yet here's a company that's just cashing in on it. And I also think that's really interesting that the jeans themselves adapt to your body size and are gender inclusive. And at first I was like, ooh, but then it's very clear that it's all just a scam and a money marketing ploy because they're like, oh, to adapt to your body size if you're 5 pounds under or 5 pounds over. That's absurd.
Yeah.
So it's very clear that it's very aware of what it's doing. And and I thought this was fun. I thought the kills were ridiculous.
I liked it when they ate all the guy's skin and all that was left was the skeleton.
Oh my
that
God,
I did like.
Ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
Yes.
I loved Libby. I loved Shruti. I'm really upset that Shruti doesn't make it to the end because I wanted her and Libby to both make it to the end and be awesome.
Well, nobody
awesome
makes
duo.
it to the end. Libby dies too.
That's what I'm saying I want them both to have made it to the end. That's exactly what I'm saying. But but no, I thought this was great.
I thought it was kind of perfect that the manager killed Shruti, even though I liked her character a lot and I liked her performance. But I thought
it was great.
I thought it was needlessly cruel the way they killed Libby. She got trampled to death, basically.
Oh, see, I dug that. I feel like that was an appropriate end to this movie.
But then I also, where this movie lost me though? I was on the fence the whole time, and you guys are going to think I'm fucking crazy, but you know where it lost me?
Where?
The gag reel in the closing credits. I was like,
that's where it lost.
I was like, why?
I didn't watch that.
Well, it's because you know how the jeans kind of look. It kind of looks like it's CGI, but it doesn't look like it's CGI. It's because it's somebody moving a real pair of jeans wearing a green suit, so they're wiped out, which you can kind of guess. But then they show the performer doing the dance when Kirat, which is the spirit's name, hears the Indian music and the dancing scene, and it's like, I mean, I don't want to don't pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. I mean, I don't know. It just and then
see, I liked that. It
really bugged me, and then just. I did appreciate the one thing though, the woman who was split in half, the woman who dies first, I think her name was Gemma. I did appreciate seeing her stuffed into the thing, how they did that. I'm like, oh, so it's clearly they had some guts in there and then they had her sticking out of a box the other side, kind of like the old saw you in half magic trick. So, okay. But otherwise I was just kind of like, and then to watch, the manager fuck up his line, any spray.
Yes.
Yeah, it was. I'm glad you guys liked it more. I appreciate what it was going for and some of the performances I really enjoyed, but on the whole, and it also, like you felt about Slumber Party Massacre over on our Patreon, everybody. It was just the perfect running time because any longer it would have been like, okay, let's wrap this up. Because this is about 77, 78 minutes also.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't get deep into character development or anything. So yeah, I agree. I think the runtime is really... is very appropriate.
Yeah. I loved this movie. I had such a blast watching it. I laughed my ass off. It was the exact kind of movie I needed. It was the perfect length. It was super silly in places. When the jeans were biting off that guy's hands and blood was spurting from his stumps, I was laughing so hard I was almost crying because it was just so over the top. And some of the kills are just just way, 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 way over the top with their gore. And I don't know. I laughed my ass off. I loved the ending. The fact that, Libby is trying to warn everyone, get away. She's trying to block them from getting in the store and they trample her to death. And then the jeans just attack all of them and kill them. I just thought that was the perfect end to this. I love the part when, the jeans ate the manager and his skeleton. It was a skeleton, but I love all the way they all flopped on him in a pile, this deadly pile of leaves just devoured him.
Oh, and then don't forget the stoner character lived because he fell asleep inside one of the changing rooms.
Well, Evan didn't see that.
Evan didn't see that because it was in the credits.
See, you got to watch the credits. You got to get all the way to the end.
Yeah.
There was a post-credit scene.
Fair enough.
But
I should have kept watching.
You should have. I also really liked the ending too. Like, I mean, it's very, it's very nihilistic and kind of depressing, but I really liked it. And it kind of, and I know this is going to be weird because I haven't actually seen this film yet, but it kind of reminded me in stills I've seen of Dawn of the Dead, and kind of like the zombies like all pressing up against, like in a mall, and they're like all the people, like you don't see their faces, but they're just like all like banging on the glass doors, and poor Ludi is trying to hold them off like a horde of zombies. I really liked that, and I thought it was very fitting too, because it just kind of, it feeds into the whole problem with consumerism and capitalism and all of that. So anyway, I agree with you, Evan. I thought it was fun. And I have to say, I don't always like horror comedies. I tend not to find them very funny. And this was funny and silly and fun. So I liked it too.
One thing I was kind of surprised about the pants, getting back to the, like, how they work. Shauna and I kept thinking that, like, initially they were eating people, like they were like eating the excess, they were talking about like, oh, if you're 5 pounds overweight, it'll help you. And I think that would have been a really interesting idea if the jeans were like eating the excess body. But it was really entertaining seeing them like crawl along the hallway and slip under things and like just like lap up the blood.
Make little faces out of their back pockets, like little eyes almost.
Like growls and things. I don't know. I was wildly entertained by this movie.
I was too. And then when it started getting more into more ethical issues, I was like, oh, great. And we're going to get commentary too. It's a nice bonus, nice surprise. Yeah. I liked the effects with the jeans, especially in the beginning, like how they're like moving, like kind of falling off the shelf and then like kind of like crawling, slinking along the floor. Yeah, I liked that. And I liked the mannequin too, how they go on the mannequin. Yeah, that was effective.
Okay, you guys done with your love fest? Gah.
Yeah, were you done with your hate fest?
Dave's a hater.
Never. Endless, bottomless pit of hate.
That train is going 24/7.
Well, anyway, gang, you can see this on Slaxx. No, on Shudder. Shudder
no,
on
Slaxx.
God, what the fuck is wrong with me? See, now the caffeine's, now I'm crashing. Now I'm having the caffeine cruise. Next movie, last movie, final movie of the night. The Courier. Which is such an ominous, The Courier. I feel like this should be a Clive Owen movie,
Yeah. I know what you mean. It sounds like it's setting up that kind of action movie. Either that or it's Courier, like someone who's just, working at a restaurant and their responsibility is the curry.
To put more curry?
No, they make the Courier.
Call in the Courier. Yeah. Put more curry. More spice. Ooh, that makes me think of Dune. Anyway. Sorry.
Any spray. This is a movie based on a true story about a guy with a great first name, Greville Wynn, and he is just a random dude who is recruited by MI6 to go. It's in 1960 to make friends with this guy in the Soviet Union who's trying to feed information to MI6, and he ends up helping to subvert the Cuban Missile Crisis. But a whole lot of bad shit happens to him as a result. For his trouble, he is arrested and tried and convicted and thrown in the gulag, literally. And the guy he was aiding in the Soviet Union is executed. But before all that happens, you get a lot of like traveling and, oh, very good, James. And, stiff upper lip and good stuff like that. I don't know. I kind of had fun with this.
Yes.
Even though it does get dark at the end.
Yeah. It takes a very grim turn in like the last chunk of the movie in a way that I both expected and didn't want to happen. I was like, no.
Yeah.
Why do we have to be so grim? Because we're just lingering on all of like the most grim parts of the movie, like when he's arrested and they make him strip and they just all the like worst things that they just linger on. And
also that you've seen done as far back as like, Papillon, like all of the, every time he was thrown back into his prison cell, I just kept thinking of Steve McQueen and Papillon. even though Benedict Cumberbatch doesn't look at all like Steve McQueen, but hey.
No.
But and I run hot and cold on Benedict Cumberbatch, but I really liked his performance in this. I thought it was really solid. I'm not sure what Megan, help me with the pronunciation of our favorite I'm Your Woman, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Rachel.
Oh, Brosnahan.
Brosnahan. I don't know why
Your name's not Megan.
Yeah, I don't know why I can't get her name.
And she's amazing. I don't mean in this. I just mean in everything.
She's amazing generally. I think I can't remember if I called her best actress for I'm Your Woman or not, but she was in my top 3. Anyway, not really sure what her place in this was, other than to throw an American in the movie to like get the American audience to watch it.
And a lady.
And a woman, yes. But there's no indication that she was a real person, unlike Greville Wynn and Oleg Penkovsky, excuse me. Although she does most of the explaining of what's going on. So she's kind of there as the audience surrogate, but she's American. She's a good-looking woman. It just felt like kind of a scam to have her in there. What?
I'm sorry. I was like, do we need the objectification of her?
No, I just mean that. No, I'm talking about from a studio's point of view. It's like
I see.
It's like why do you cast Andie MacDowell in 4 Weddings and a Funeral? Because you need an American, so.
I guess.
I mean, you could have cast a better American, but still.
Right. But anyway.
But overall, I really enjoyed this a lot. Solid performances and good sense of pacing. The ending does lag a little bit, partly because this is the sort of thing you've seen before, but I'm always down for a good Cold War story, I'm
not sure how memorable the film will be in the long run, but I liked it too. I don't know if I liked it quite as much as you did, but I enjoyed this. I thought Benedict Cumberbatch was good. I thought the performances were really good all around. I think the actor who plays Penkovsky is good. I liked their rapport and their friendship. I have to say, I'm surprised at how emotional the end made me. It really caught me off guard. I was not expecting to get quite so emotional when he finally gets out of the gulag and gets home and everything. And yeah, I think Benedict Cumberbatch does a great job in those scenes. And it does feel like it's a different film, but it's okay. I enjoyed where it was taking me. And yeah, there's more I want to say. There's a few other scenes, but I want to hear what you think.
I feel like I'm on the similar page to both of you. I really did enjoy this movie. I agree with you, Megan. I'm not sure of its staying power in my head. Like, will it be, later this year? Will I still be thinking about this movie? I'm not sure, but I enjoyed it for what it was. I think it did have a good sense of pacing. I liked the score. It knew its way around a montage. I feel like there were several effective montages, like the one to Twist Again, I thought was really effective and kind of showing the relationship growing between Penkovsky and
Greville Wynn.
Greville Wynn, yeah, and when they're hanging out in London. And so but it does slow down a lot in the last act. But I was also, like you, Megan, kind of surprised how hard the ending hit me emotionally, seeing him return home and kind of stand there in the hall, like just come inside the front door of his home and just kind of like having this rush of emotions about everything that he's gone through and everything that's happened. And this son's like, Dad, come here. I want to like do something.
Yeah.
And he's just barely keeping it together and he's like about to break down. Yeah. It's really, really well done.
Yeah.
Really effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The one moment I got emotional was when his kid says, Dad, are you there? Or where are you? Or something like that. And I was like, so yeah,
that makes sense. The two scenes additionally that I really, really liked, I like when he's recruited at lunch by Rachel Brosnahan and the guy from MI6 and the silence that's utilized, that there's no score, there's no sound, there's nothing. And I really appreciate that the camera just like sits with him and like kind of his shock at what's happening and how he's being recruited. I really appreciated that. And not enough films, I feel like, utilize silence or know when to. And I wish this film did it a little bit more because it does it so well in that scene. And I also, speaking of a montage, I agree with you, Evan. I think it does montages very well. And I really love when Greville and Penkovsky are at the ballet at I think it's Swan Lake, and you see the swan
so.
die, and it's the intercutting of their faces and of the espionage and the ballet and the swan dying, mirroring the mortal danger to their lives. And I thought for sure somebody was going to get shot, and I'm glad that didn't happen because that would have been very predictable, and kind of maybe obvious. But I really liked that usage of the orchestral music and the montage and the ballet and everything. I just thought it was really, again, well done.
You know what scene worked for me really well, or whole series of scenes, I should say, is right at the beginning when Penkovsky was trying to figure out who he was going to give his information to get the message out. And he picks these two random tourists. He's just waiting for Americans to come out of the embassy, gives them a note and is like, take this to your embassy right now. And one guy's like, nah, we can't get involved. And the other guy's like, I'll do it.
And he just takes
and
off.
He just runs to the fucking embassy. And I was just like, yes, it's 1960. That's how you have to do it, you know?
So that was a great scene.
Yeah, I really, and just like random people coming down the steps into the subway. And he's like, I have to go now. Goodbye. And like never sees those fucking guys again. Never knows whether the message is actually going to get anywhere until Benedict Cumberbatch shows up and he's like, the Russian to the English guy. So,
Your Benedict Cumberbatch is spot on.
Yeah, thank you. You know what really I thought was a nice, and this is not a joke, what I thought was a really nice warm moment between the two of them when Penkovsky says, I have to ask you a serious question. If you're going to do business in Russia, can you hold your liquor or can you hold your alcohol? And Benedict Cumberbatch says, it's my one true talent. It's just like,
it's a good moment.
Great. Oh, what a great answer. And the way he delivers it too. So
yeah. That was a funny line. I also want to talk about the cinematography in this movie. I think there were some really excellent shots. Like one of my favorites is when Benedict Cumberbatch gets home after his day of work and we see the wide shot and we can see his wife cutting carrots or something in the kitchen and he's in the den and they're talking to each other on opposite sides of the wall. I just feel like there were a couple of like really notable shots. That was one of them. And another one was when he was having lunch at one of the times with the MI6 and the CIA. And then like we see a shot of the two of them sitting like across from each other and he like gets up and leaves the room. And I thought that was like a really cool shot.
I definitely agree with you about when he comes home and he and Jessie Buckley are talking too. By the way, I always like seeing Jessie Buckley as well.
Yeah, it's cool to see her. I just wanted to mention really quickly, Dominic Cook, the director, directed one of my favorite movies of 2017 on Chesil Beach. Just thought I'd throw that out
there. God, I hated that movie.
Well, you are wrong, Megan.
Nope, I've never wrong.
But yeah, well, I mean, adapting Ian McEwan is hard. So anybody who gets it even remotely right, I feel like deserves some accolades. So yeah, I agree with you guys also, though, that I'm not sure I'm going to be thinking about this at the end of the year. But for, the last movie I was going to watch before the show, I had a little bit of extra time. I was like, I can do this and eat some pizza and like chill out. And it was just just light enough to not make me want to hurl before I did the episode, except for maybe the very ending when, he gets
shit
back
gets
to
real.
when he gets back to his cell and they've taken the lid off his shit bucket. So
yeah, that's tough to see, them starving him and taking away his bed and his sleep. And that scene where he has to sit there and face Penkovsky when they throw them together in the room, I think that also got to me emotionally, the way that they didn't give each other up, but then like the way he was reaching for Penkovsky's hand and they were just grasping onto each other for dear life. I thought that was a really moving scene.
I kept thinking about this scene and this is when I knew Penkovsky was never going to be able to defect. But at the same time, I kept thinking about this scene and it kept making me really emotional when they're walking and talking and he says he wants to go to Montana. And Greville Wynn is like, wait, what? Montana? And he's like, yeah. He's like, it reminds me of my home, when he's talking about the big trees and the big sky. And he's like, maybe I'll be a cowboy. You'll have to come visit me. And it just was like, oh, he's never going to go to Montana.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Hunt for Red October because Sam Neill doesn't get to go to Montana either or meet his American wife who will cook rabbits for him. So,
ew. Just the rabbits part.
Yeah. If you recall your Hunt for Red October.
I don't actually, but it's been a long time since I've seen it.
There's another Soviet person who wants to go to Montana in that movie. So that was just, I wonder.
Yeah.
Tom Clancy probably knew that history. So, hey, maybe Penkovsky really did want to go to Montana, and that was in a thing that Tom Clancy read somewhere. Who knows?
Maybe.
But that's an entirely different movie and an entirely different feeling movie. Anyway, I also agree with you guys about how it looked. Yeah, I just this is one of those movies that, like, I feel like it's a good movie. It's not great, but it's good. And, sometimes good is good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I don't know, I had, it was a mixed bag for me this week. So it was nice to end on, for me, a good note. So, any spray.
I just want to say I think it's interesting that we keep getting films about spies and espionage, and we keep getting films about the Cold War, and we keep getting films about, the US versus Russia. And I always think about this, and I'm like, do we need another film like this? Do we need another one? And I oftentimes will say yes, and here's why. And I think for this one too, yes, and not just because it's based on a true story, and it's a story I didn't know, so that was kind of great to learn another story.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's always important to see, and it doesn't have to be Russia or the Soviet Union at that time, not Russia, but it doesn't have to be the Soviet Union. It can be any fascist regime. But I think it's considering the rise of fascism in our own fucking country this year, I think, and for many years, I think it is always important to see art that reflects history and reflects what's happening currently. So I would say, yes, it is important.
Yeah, especially when the story just broke that it was the Russians who planted the Hunter Biden computer story. So,
yes,
which, shocker. Anyway, I agree. I think that we, why do we keep needing to see World War II movies? So we don't fucking go through that again, for Christ's sake. So apparently nobody's watching them, by the way. Nobody in power, anyway.
Yes, nobody's learning from them. Maybe they're watching, but they're not listening and learning.
Same.
All right, then, gang. Well, let's talk about where we can watch our foreign movies. I already mentioned this, but Ludi is at South by Southwest, which you can buy passes to if they're still available. I don't actually know if they're still available. Do you know, Megan?
I think passes are, but films are showing at different times, so I don't know if they're doing the on-demand thing that some other film fests have done. So. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't have more information on that, but definitely check out South by Southwest. And if you can't watch, keep an eye out for it when it does get distributed and released.
Yep. Operation Varsity Blues, the college admissions scandal, is on Netflix, and it's a split ticket. It's let me see. Well, you guys can speak for yourselves, but yes for Evan, no for Megan, for me.
Yeah, God no for me.
Slaxx, that's on Shudder. You guys thought it was great-ish.
Yeah.
And I thought it was crud mostly. And
yikes.
Yeah. And then The Courier is on demand and in theaters, weirdly, starting today. And we all kind of liked it in our own ways. So hey, why not? Why not enjoy The Courier?
Why not indeed?
Why not indeed?
That does it for this week's episode of Spoiler Piece Theater. Remember to go check out our Patreon, which this week we're talking about the patron poll choice Slumber Party Massacre from 1982. We already told you where you can see all the movies. We want to thank our awesome editor, Otto Clammer, for doing the editing for us. Yay!
Yay, we love you, Otto.
And you can find Spoiler Piece Theater wherever you can get podcasts. You can find us at our website, that's spoilerpiece.com. If you want to get in touch with us when I don't trip over my own words, we're Spoiler Piece Theater on Facebook, at Spoiler Piece on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. If you wanted to send us an email and tell us, no, here's why The Courier is the worst Cold War spy movie ever, that's spoilerpiece@gmail.com. Or you can give us a call
at 862-21-PEACE.
And instead of sending us that email, which would be in all caps, you can just be like, no, you're wrong about The Courier. It's terrible. And here's why. But we're actually right. So that's all right. If you like the show, please rate and review it by going to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece. And if you really, really like the show, Join the aforementioned Patreon. Like I said earlier, 30 seconds ago, we're doing Slumber Party Massacre this week. And we would also like to thank our patrons.
Yes, we want to give a huge thank you to Bill Scahan, Bob Chipman, Charles Nash, Chris Wilkinson, Davida Margolin, Deirdre Crimmins, Christopher Jensen, Max Coville, Mike, Lord of the Sith, Rory Glynn, Sean Pensionar, Shauna Harris, Shelley M. McCaskill, Shona Glasgow, and Zach Pigeon. Thank you so much, patrons. You're great. We love you.
Thank you, patrons.
Thanks, patrons.
And we love you too, listeners.
Of course we do.
Yeah, of course we do. Except for me. I don't like anyone. That's not true. I'm sorry, listeners. I had to have a joke at your expense. I apologize. But you know who to blame now. My name is Dave Riedel. I write for some places about movies. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. And you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd as Dave Sees Movies.
My name is Evan Crean. I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living. You can follow me on Twitter and on Letterboxd as Real Recon, and that's real as in film reel.
And my name is Megan Kearns. I'm a contributor to Edge Media Network. I, too, am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. You can follow me on Twitter at OpinionS World and on Instagram and Letterboxd at The OpinionS.
And we will see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.